Welcome to episode 16 of The Leap Home. Thou shalt not.
In this week's episode, Sam must save a family marriage when a father's inability to come to terms with the death of his son begins to drive a wedge between him and his wife. With a slimy Lothario on the hunt for unhappy wives, can Sam intervene in time? Or will the sleazeball have his way?
Well, sometimes I think fidelity is highly overrated. Nobody looks at the downside.
There's a downside to being faithful.
Of course. It discourages social interaction.
Good evening, Ian. How are things?
Not too bad, Gerry. How are you?
Trying to discourage social interaction.
I always stick to that.
Yeah, it's the best way.
It's one of the upsides, I would say, of fidelity, is you don't have to socially interact with anybody else anymore.
Coronavirus almost saw to that.
Yeah, well, is that true? Did you enjoy this episode?
I did, yes.
They didn't dodge any awkward conversations. None of them were left unhad.
No. There were some quite emotional conversations as well, and I bought into a lot of the themes and reasoning behind behaviour.
There's at least one great performance.
Bert?
Yes. That's what I'm thinking of. He reminded me a little bit of when Dick Van Dyke was in Columbo.
Why?
With his little beard going on. And
yeah. Bert's
is that a cross between Dick Van Dyke and Jeremy Beadle?
Sure. Okay. Bert was an atrocious character. He reminded me of someone. What he was doing is something like from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Or perhaps even, did I say, there's a touch of the Pete Townsends about him here.
Right.
Had to end up writing a book as cover for other dubious activities. Anyway.
Yes. If you have any thoughts about dubious activities, you can get hold of us on social media. We're at Leap Home Podcast on Facebook. On Twitter and Instagram. We're at The Leap Home on Facebook. Got our website up with a post for each show at theleaphome.com, and we prefer, if you don't mind, to send you to YouTube to leave your comments and thoughts and likes and bell smashes. Columbo Podcast Productions channel has every episode 1 week early, which we hope is a attraction for you. Also, leave reviews. Apple Podcasts.
And Snapchat.
Don't Snapchat us. I'm not even checking it.
Yeah, we'll check it occasionally. Eventually.
One day.
Yeah.
But it's all time limited. It'll be gone. By the time I'll log in, it'll all be gone.
Well, if you Snapchat, tweet us to tell us you've Snapchatted us. That's what to do.
That's the way to do it. It's efficient and modern. Shall we think about the episode a wee bit?
Let's crack on.
The recap takeaway this week is about a change of tune. Sam moving from his DJ leap, which he seems to have enjoyed, into a much longer version of last week's end tag.
Yeah, I think he'll be far more uncomfortable in this week's episode.
Yeah, it's interesting though, the characterisation of Joe in this part of the episode is very different to how he is in the rest. I suppose maybe putting on a show for public eyes.
In what way?
So for the rest of the episode, he's basically neglecting his daughter. He's kind of in a pit of depression. He's not engaging with his family, but here he's quite engaged. He's vivacious. He's proud of his daughter, talking about her. And
yeah, I think you're right. I think this is a public display. It's an important milestone in the Jewish faith. So I would assume he doesn't want to lose face.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. We then get the credits, and it cuts off at a moment where it looks like Sam maybe won't know what to say, but we don't see a resolution to that, because when we come back from the credits, we're at the reception, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, we're in I think it may be is it a school or...
I mean, it could be a hall at the synagogue, I don't know.
It's a function hall.
Yeah. It's February the 2nd, 1974, and Sam's carrying out a bit of an awkward meet and greet with people who clearly know who he is and expect him to know who they are.
Yeah. And as you said, it is interesting that we didn't find out how he got out of his sticky situation.
Yeah.
Bit lazy, that.
A little bit, yeah. We'll just nod and wink and pass that one on.
Mm-hmm.
I think it happens again later on.
Yeah. As you mentioned, he does a bit of nervous meeting and greeting as youngsters dance to the band on stage before the MC announces that the Bash family want them all to join them in the breaking of the bread.
Yes, Sam is invited to join his brother on stage, which is an important piece of information, and lead the ceremony.
He is obviously nervous and worried. He doesn't know what he's meant to be doing, but not for the first time. He is saved by Al,
who fortuitously has some insight into Jewish customs.
Yeah, he is able to talk him through the words and the actions that are required, and after doing this, Sam asked how he knew. So how did Al know?
His third wife was Jewish, so he knows the basics, he says.
Ruthie.
Indeed.
But
Sam once again fails to hide the fact that he's talking to Al, and at least one person comments on it in the crowd.
I also liked the fact that Al had a little joke with him when he said, I know about the breaking of the bread, but circumcisions are, you're on your own for that.
Yeah. Sam gets accosted to lead the hora.
And again, Al comes to the rescue.
Yeah, teaches him the moves. They're fairly simple.
And I think, as we've seen before, Sam quite enjoys it once he gets into it.
It looks like everyone's having a ball filming that scene.
Yeah.
Like all the actors are right into it.
I've not performed it myself. I've not get involved. The only Jewish ceremony I've ever been to was a Jewish wedding.
How did that go?
20 years ago.
Right.
Can't remember much about it.
That's the sort of place where you would get to do a dance like this.
I'm sure there was.
Unless it's a specific type of...
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, we're at the buffet table.
Yes, Sam's brother, or David's brother as it is, Joe, Joe's wife Irene and a guy called Bert are having a conversation as Sam comes over. Yeah,
they're talking about the fact that Bert hasn't seen Joe at their beach house in the last year or so. And the clearly disgruntled brother grumbles that he buys a second house but never gets the chance to use it. And we have perhaps a cliched response here.
You think?
Yeah, when Bert advises him to use it as a tax write-off, it's, Jewish people know all about finance and money and that type of thing.
Yeah. But then he's also meant to be Jewish, so...
Who?
Bert.
Yeah, but the writers probably aren't. I'm talking about, it's a bit of a...
stereotype, I
So we've got the circumcision joke and then the financial
They're walking
reference.
a tightrope here.
Yeah. Anyway.
Bert tells Sam that his sermon was fascinating and asks whether he can quote it in a book that he's writing. Yeah,
this is just as Joe's wife Irene walks over with Sam, and Sam obviously he says, yeah, that's fine. Don't really know what you're talking about, but if you want to quote me,
yeah, whatever. I wasn't here for that.
They then see their daughter Karen dancing with a boy, which they are happy about.
Well, certainly Irene's happy about it.
And then Joe embarrasses her.
Yes, he refuses to dance, and Bert steps into the void.
Yeah, Killing Me Softly, being played by the band. Joe does not treat Irene very well in this episode at all.
It's not even that he doesn't want to dance, he's just rude.
But it's more than rude in the sense that, we find out why, but he's totally disinterested. It's not as if he's even saying, yeah, I'm not dancing with you, and he's having a laugh or a drink with his friends or doing something else. He's just like...
Yeah, he's just disengaged.
No, I'm not doing anything at all.
Yeah.
Which is probably more worrying or more concerning for Irene.
Oh, you would think so.
And as you said, Bert takes the opportunity to step in and leads her to the dance floor.
Joe's not very receptive to some friendly advice from Sam at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Sam is correct, but I can also understand, you don't want to hear this.
Yeah, well, Sam says he should have danced with her, but he's asked, is that advice from my brother or my rabbi? Because I don't need it from either of you.
And he walks off, which clearly puzzles Sam.
Indeed. On the dance floor, Bert, I think this might have been in a bit of an in-joke.
Okay.
Well, he stands on Irene's toe and apologises, saying that he hasn't danced for years.
Yes.
Obviously, the actor's famed for his dance.
I'm sure you'll give us some background when we get to the trivia, yeah. And at the same time, a group of sort of gossipy women look on and comment on him being a widow for 2 years, and one lets it slip to the others that he has been trying to get over it.
Yeah, she says you can tell just by looking at him.
Yeah, I think one says it's a waste of a man who's so good...
Hearted. Yeah.
The awkwardness is interrupted by Sam, who sits down, but two of them immediately excuse themselves and leave him alone with someone called Shirley.
Is she called Shirley?
I think so. We'll call her Shirley anyway if she's not.
You can't be serious. Anyway, she says she needs to talk with him, and they arrange to meet at noon the next day, and she leaves.
Yeah, she is quite agitated. Back at the buffet, Al is salivating over the food and wishes that holograms could eat. This is a bit like the episode in Driving Miss Racist.
Yes, when they're cooking in the kitchen. Yeah. But they're cooking something that Sam doesn't like, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, it was innards. It was
Meanwhile...
chitlins, was that what it was?
Yeah, chitlins. Sam wants to stick to the roast chicken and also wants to know why he's here.
Yeah, so Al tells him that it is to prevent Irene from ruining her life in 36 hours by having a one-night stand which ends her marriage and affects her daughter.
Al doesn't see the problem.
Yeah, he doesn't see what's wrong with a good old-fashioned one-night stand.
Is this where the bit from the top of the show came in? It talks about fidelity.
Not yet, no.
Not quite yet.
It's a similar theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
But Sam can't believe it. He can't understand or doesn't think that she would be unfaithful. And I wasn't...
He's just seen Joe being incredibly rude and dismissive of her.
Well, I've got here yet. Joe seems a total beep, and Sam doesn't know any of them anyway, so...
How can you say this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Over at Joe and Irene's house now, Sam is sitting with his niece.
Yeah, before we get there, we should point out that we see Irene. She's standing on her own at the edge of the dance floor, staring forlornly.
Okay.
Anyway, so over to the Bash household.
Yes, Sam is sitting with his niece, Karen, and she's got some gifts from the boy she was dancing with.
Yeah, young Michael. Meanwhile, Joe is reading the newspaper.
Yeah, he seems miles away. When she mentions who the gifts are from, he starts sort of talking about the guy's brother a little bit vaguely, and then remembers that he needs to put gas in his car.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time we see... So Karen, the daughter, she tries to engage with her dad.
Yeah.
But as you say, he's not interested in talking about anything specifically to do with her. He immediately goes off on a tangent.
He does. Sam somehow remembers that there's a gas shortage. It's very specific.
It is, when you bear in mind that apparently he's got Swiss cheese
He doesn't remember his own brother, but he remembers there was a gas shortage in this month on that year.
Okay, so I suppose it's one of these things, isn't it? Maybe if you've got memory problems, maybe it'll be a case that sometimes it's just obscure things you do remember.
Yeah.
So the gas shortage or whatever. But yeah, it happened at that particular time. That's
very specific.
Very specific. And then I think there's a mention of Michael's brother who's going to Yale.
Yeah, this is
too.
what Joe's talking about.
Yeah. So he says too, as well as someone else.
Yeah. Karen asks if she can come along to the gas station, but Joe asks why she would want to and tells Sam to come instead.
He has no understanding of what she's attempting to do, or the pain or the hurt that this emotional neglect is causing her. Yes. So we head for gas. Alone with Sam in the line, Joe takes the opportunity to open up somewhat to his brother.
We're 8, maybe 9 back.
Nah, it's no big deal. Just a good excuse to get out of the house.
Why would you want an excuse to get out of the house?
You know. So, what'd you think of the UCLA game? It's pretty wild, huh?
I missed it.
You, David Bosch, missed Bill Walton's first loss in 3 years? Jeez, when we were kids, we would have killed to see that.
You remember all those nights Dad would pack us in the car and take us to the pavilion? And he'd buy us the hot dogs, the t-shirts, just whatever we wanted, just as long as the Bruins won. Dad and his sons. He was sure proud, remember? You know something I almost can't? That's what life's all about. Taking your son to a basketball game. You ever take Karen? To a basketball game? No. Well, she might like it. No, it's not the same with a girl. How about Irene? Well, we used to go. We don't go anymore. We don't do anything anymore. In fact, for the first time in 22 years, I've been thinking about having an affair.
Couple of things.
Yeah. Firstly, I think it's clear that Sam is not married.
Okay.
He doesn't understand why he'd want to get out of the house for a while. That's the sign of, someone who's not had to endure.
Yeah. Now, Joe's reaction to this idea that, for the first time, I'm thinking about an affair. It's like,
Well, that's. I mean, I've got. Okay, what's your point?
well, it's a bizarre passage of thought, like
You don't. That's
train of thought.
Yeah, you don't think about having an affair. That's far too strategic.
Yeah.
Firstly, affairs have to be reciprocated, or else it's rape.
That's true.
So you don't think I might have an affair. You have to have someone to have that affair with.
Yeah.
I mean, has he got them all lined up? Yeah, there's probably Carol from accounts and Debbie down the road. What do you mean you're thinking about having an affair?
He's also completely emotionally unavailable. Who's going to want to have an affair with a guy who's not engaging with anything?
Yeah, I thought it was a really odd thing to, firstly to say, but to say to your brother.
Yes, yeah, and your rabbi.
Yeah.
The other thing was, he made a weird comment. So they're supporters of the Bruins, the UCLA Bruins.
Okay.
Specifically the basketball team, but all the sports teams are called the Bruins. And he's talking about Bill Walton suffering his first loss.
Was he not a coach, a basketball coach?
He's a player and then a coach. He still is. He's a commentator now.
Right.
His first loss in 3 years. So 14th of January 74, the Bruins lost to Notre Dame 71-70, broke an 88-game winning streak. And he's talking about, we would have loved to see that as kids, but they support the Bruins. Why would they want to see their 88-game winning streak broken? It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Oh, it would have killed to see. No, you wouldn't. You'd have been devastated if, as children, the team that you thought was always going to win got beaten.
Yeah. Yeah, just weird.
Yeah. He's just not really engaged, I think, with what's going around him.
No.
Bill Walton actually had a broken spine in that game, didn't get it fixed after he retired.
That's what proper man.
Yeah. Anyhow, back at the house, Sam, despite being in the presence of the family, somehow finds a room to speak to Al.
Yeah, risky behaviour again. Go for a walk.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm going for a constitutional.
that's it.
Yeah, he's telling him what happened, and unsurprisingly, he thinks maybe it'd be good for both of them to have an affair.
Al does, yes.
Yeah, and tries to justify it, as we heard in the opening clip, by claiming I think it could end wars.
Well, if everyone was able to go with everybody else,
Yeah, until Sam points out that.
until their wives find out. Yeah.
But they would also be having affairs. So
Yes, it doesn't matter.
weird.
Sam is convinced that fidelity is the basis of a good relationship, but he doesn't expect Al to understand that sort of thing.
No. So Al suggests maybe his mission is just to prevent either of them from finding out about the other's cheating. But obviously, Sam thinks this is ridiculous and insults him.
Yes, but as I said, he says he can't expect Al to understand the basis of a good relationship, but Al says it's not his relationships that are the problem, it's his marriages that are troublesome.
Okay, that's one way of spinning it, I suppose.
Irene comes in at this point saying she heard him talking, like we thought maybe would happen.
Which he covers by saying that he was praying, and she smiles and tells him that she's going to set the table. Okay.
She tells him to relax when he offers to help. We get a wee bit of time jump, I think.
Yeah, it's a bit later. Sam is playing Scrabble with Karen and arguing about sushi being a real word.
She asks if he ever wants to get married, and he says one day he will.
Yeah, it's quite out of the blue.
Well, I think she's obviously noticing problems in her parents' marriage and has concerns or thoughts about it that she can't talk to them about.
Yeah. She admits that she thinks about it herself, who she'll get married to all the time, and it'll be someone cute who never yells and then quickly asks him not to tell anyone. So obviously, this yelling.
Yeah, someone who's not like her dad is the unspoken version of it.
Yeah.
Sam makes a critical error at this point.
Yeah, he's feeling a bit uncomfortable, so tries to change the subject by picking up the nearby guitar.
Yes, this deeply upsets Karen, who says it's Danny's guitar.
But before he can find out more, they're called to dinner.
Yes. At the dinner table, Irene and Joe have a stupid argument about whether the meat's tough.
Yeah, it's a very tense and forced atmosphere that causes this.
Even Karen gets involved. She snaps and tells her mother that her dad said it was fine, but Sam steps in at this point to explain it's probably his fault that she's upset.
Yeah, he explains about the guitar. This ups the tension before Irene says it's about time someone played it, which causes Joe to try and shut down the conversation.
He does. Irene then tries to push a little bit, talking about setting a headstone for Danny.
Yeah, this is the first time we find out that Danny is the brother, big brother, who's dead.
Yeah. Joe snaps at this point, tells her to drop it, and Karen gets up and runs away from the table. And Sam realises, I think we hear him thinking, that they've obviously lost a son and the family's being torn apart because they aren't dealing with it.
And then he asks if he can stay the night, using the excuse of having his place fumigated. That's a bit... Surely that's...
That might be mentioned before.
Yeah. I mean, why would you have a place fumigated? It's not... This isn't like it's my yearly fumigation. I mean, who gets their house fumigated unless there's some sort of issue?
I've just been told, yeah. Unless the synagogue arranges it. If he's got like a house that he's given because he's the rabbi. But like a manse. I don't know what
Yeah, maybe, but you're just making stuff up here.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Joe, although angry, agrees.
We're in Danny's bedroom, and whilst preparing the bed, Irene picks up a photo of her son and Joe before Sam enters and asks if this is where he is sleeping. And at this point we hear more about the son that she lost.
Danny loved this room. Of course, he said he couldn't wait to leave to go to Yale, but he loved it. He brought a lot of friends up here. When he was 16, he said he wanted to bring girls up in here. I said no. I mean, girls here. What's the matter, Mom? Don't you trust me? You, I trust. It's the girls I'm worried about. And he laughed. Do you remember his laugh, David?
He had a great laugh.
I couldn't say no to Danny when he laughed, not when he laughed. He laughed when I told him that Joe and I were nervous about he and Mark going backpacking alone in Europe. I had to talk Joe into letting him go. I had to.
Danny loved you for that.
Do you think he loved me when the plane crashed? Oh, Dave. Do you think he was thinking of me when he was dying?
Sam took a chance there.
Yeah, it's bold.
By answering the, do you remember his laugh? That could be a trick question. I don't trust you.
He never laughed.
He never laughed. Yeah, he had that medical condition which meant he couldn't laugh.
Who are you? I remember that he would say, sweat. No, he couldn't sweat.
He had that wonderful laugh. No, he didn't. He had that creepy little laugh.
Like a maniac.
He laughed like a girl.
Sam reassures Irene that her son loved her and will always be with her.
But she is nearly hyperventilating and claims that she killed him and that Joe thinks that this is the case.
Sam says, yeah, probably, but he's wrong.
Yes, and he strokes her face, which leads to them almost kissing. Why
is he
doing?
touching her face?
Like, there's no... I don't know, every single week we're going to have to say this. Control yourself. Are you some sort of sex pest? You've leapt into this person. This is your sister-in-law.
Yeah. And there's no need for you to be touching her face.
You should not be doing this at all. Stop being a dick.
She goes off after the moment is broken to get him the firm pillow that he asked for, and he thinks to himself that perhaps he's the one that she's going to have the one night stand with.
Or he's thinking, I'll be the one giving her something firm. It won't be a pillow.
I don't think he was thinking that because we heard what he was thinking.
All right, yeah, okay. Anyway, next day.
Sam's ranting to Al, who's looking great in his fluorescent orange get-up.
He always looks good. I think this Halloween, I might try and get myself an Al get-up, although I'm not sure how many people would...
Nobody would know what you're talking about.
No.
Yeah. Al thinks he's got the solution to this whole misadventure.
What's that?
Just get Sam to promise to God that he won't have an affair with Irene, and then he should leap.
Well, his solution is the obvious solution. If this is the case, it's do nothing.
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't have the affair. You're in control here.
Yeah.
Do not pump your brother's wife.
That's it.
If all the situations he's been in,
Yeah.
this is the easiest one.
I mean, it's not that difficult. 9 times out of 10, it's pretty easy not to pump your brother's wife.
Yeah.
Anyhow, he doesn't leap, and he asks Al whether Irene is falling for him.
Yeah, did you like the bit where Sam says he's not up for clicking his heels together 3 times?
Well, that's other suggestion, is it, to get him to leap? It doesn't work.
That's the Wizard of Oz again.
Of course. There's a few Wizard of Oz. They've had Wicked Witch references and stuff like that in the past. I'll think that Irene is not falling for Sam. She just needs somebody to help her.
Yeah, I think Al says that she is falling in need with him.
Yeah.
And she needs him to get back to Joe.
Sam says that he sometimes wishes he could go home, and Al says that this is his family for now and he needs to make it work. It's quite cold from Al, but correct.
Yeah, I mean, this bit here was, I thought it was quite a conservative Christian outlook on things. They talk about keeping the family together. I mean, on a specific level, you can understand that, yeah, they don't want to hurt Karen, but it is very much, yeah.
Yeah, if Irene's going to be miserable for the next 50 years, is it worth saving the marriage? Mm-hmm. But there's other times when he's got to stop folk from getting married.
Yeah. Although I say a conservative Christian, I mean, I'm not really sure it's probably equally applied to a conservative Judaism, yeah, as well. Just that conservative mindset of middle class America in the 50s.
Not just the 50s, I don't suppose.
No, no, certainly not. Worse, they were more liberal back then.
Yeah. The next morning, there is a bake sale going on, and Karen is moaning at being enlisted to help by her mother.
And at this point, Bert sidles up and comments that he hasn't had any kugel since his wife died, and Irene's looks good. Oh, you want a bit of Irene's kugel?
She says she'll make him one, but he says there's no need, he'll buy this one that's right here in front of him.
Yeah, he then plays on her emotions to establish a bond when he mentions that his new book is on dealing with the loss of a loved one. And he offers her the chance to contribute, and she admits to being very uncomfortable about things.
Yeah, so at this point, and for a while going on, she doesn't seem receptive to Bert at all, but he must be very persuasive, because we move over to Sam's perspective and we see the two of them wandering off together. Like moments after she said, no, I'm too uncomfortable to talk about this sort of thing.
Bert's the type of guy who would try and learn hypnosis.
Yeah, but there's no sign that she's engaging with Bert or interested in Bert, and then suddenly it's like, oh yeah, well let's go off and have a chat.
Yeah. Bert is the type of guy who should never have any sort of superpower.
He should have supervision. That's what he should have.
He should be supervised, yes. Yeah. But can you imagine giving him like
X-ray vision or invisibility?
Whoa. I mean, the first things that he would do, in fairness.
Sam now tells Karen that her mother needs some support, but Karen snappily retorts with her belief that that's what husbands are for.
However, they are interrupted by a cry for help as a man chokes on some food, and of course, Sam is able to come to the rescue by performing the Heimlich manoeuvre.
Yeah, he seems to have just invented this, because the man he has saved is indeed Dr. Heimlich.
I quite enjoyed that.
It was completely unnecessary and nothing to do with the story, but yes, it was fine.
But before he can take all this in, he's approached by Shirley, who reminds him of their appointment and wants to go somewhere more private. So, out into the garden they head, where we hear what she has to say.
Now, what did you want to see me about?
Rabbi, it was all my fault.
Your fault?
It was right after my father died. And Howard, he just didn't understand.
Howard, your husband?
I've been married to him for 17 years. Now I can't look at him. I can't talk to him. Oh, Rabbi, he seemed to know exactly what I was thinking, what I was feeling.
Howard?
No, Bert.
Bert?
Rabbi, I had an affair with Bert Glasserman.
Here.
Thank you. He said he was doing research for his book, and it just got out of hand. Rabbi, what should I do?
I think we should set up another appointment.
Huh?
Bert's a scumbag, isn't he?
Oh, he's wicked.
But to an extent, you have to admire him.
No.
He's good at what he's doing.
He has chutzpah.
Back in the hall, Sam and Irene have some small talk about the success of the bake sale, and then she thanks him for listening to her the previous night.
Yeah, she says he's more than just her rabbi. He's her brother-in-law and her friend, and without him they would be in trouble.
Yeah, he tries to brush this off, insisting it's just his duties, before she reveals that sometimes things feel hopeless, and he suggests some time alone for her and her husband.
Yeah, she's concerned about Karen, so he says he'll look after her, which makes Irene pleased.
I think she mentions that she loves the beach house, but they haven't been there in over a year. And so he tells them to go this weekend, and as you say, he'll look after Karen.
Yeah.
I thought that, and at this point specifically, there was a touch of Jennifer Grey about this actor.
Right. Okay.
She reminded me of her.
Fair enough.
Anyway, where were we? Or where are we going?
We're back at the house. Must be a little bit later on because Joe comes in looking weary, and David and Irene are coming down the stairs with packed suitcases.
Yeah, I've noted here that he looks like a sad sack.
He really does. He says he's not going this weekend. He's brought work home and he doesn't want to go.
Not just that, but he says, I'm not going there, and suggests that she goes on her own if she really wants, which is not what she wanted to hear.
No, I think he's implying there's some sort of block with going, maybe used to go there with his son or...
Oh, for sure. That's the thing, yeah. Sam tries to persuade him, and Irene asks Joe to listen to him as he understands, apparently. Again, not
the best thing to say.
Not the best approach, yeah, if you're trying to win him over.
He says, if he's so smart, why don't you marry him? Which seems a bit impractical.
Yeah.
But she says, maybe I should have, as if it was a choice she made. It's like, which one of them will I marry?
Yeah, again, she's not helping the situation here by how she communicates or attempts to.
Neither of them are great at communicating, are they? That's why they've got these problems.
For sure, and at this point she walks out with her luggage.
Joe storms up the stairs and Karen says she wishes the same, that her mother had married David.
Yeah. When he storms off up the stairs, he physically pushes Sam out the way. He's very angry.
I'm not sure that Karen realises what it would have meant if her mother had married somebody different.
Well, she wouldn't be there.
Yeah. Or maybe that's what she wants.
Maybe.
Sam tells her that her dad loves both her and her mum, but Karen doesn't agree. She says he only loves Danny and she hates him for dying.
Sam holds her tight and assures her that he does, but he needs her to love him just as much.
She tells Sam that she loves him and then heads off to bed.
And at this point, a concerned Al has appeared.
He's got some news for Sam.
What's this?
Bert isn't a widower. He's a slimeball using women to get material for his book. And he calls him a yutz.
At the beach house.
We see Bert lurking nearby.
This is really creepy, really weird.
I mean, he did say earlier on that he hasn't seen them at the beach house for a while, so we know that he goes there. It's not like he's followed her.
Well, we're assuming that, but it's like maybe Joe didn't click. It's like, I've not seen you at the beach house. Why, Bert? You don't have a house at the beach. How do you know
I've been standing on your veranda for weeks.
Yeah, we see him. He's smoking a pipe. I mean, of all
as dodgy as he can.
Really, skulking around, watching Irene. I thought that he looked very much like Stephen J. Cannell.
Okay.
Or Cannell, the producer and writer of many 80s, 70s, 80s TV shows.
I think it's the beard.
Yeah, and the pipe. And the hair, sort of curly. Yeah. Anyway.
A bit later on, Joe is in Danny's room looking at the photo we saw Irene handling the other night. And Karen comes in.
Yeah, he asks her where Sam went, and she tells him that he asked for directions to the beach. Would he not know this as a brother?
You know, he asked Karen for directions to the beach house.
Yes.
No, but Sam doesn't know.
Yeah, but he should be expected to know. Yeah. If it was her brother, they would know about the beach
maybe
house.
He's never been. I don't know.
Really?
It's a bit of a weird thing.
You've got your brother's get you're quite close family, obviously.
Maybe I don't know. He could have done it intentionally to leave this breadcrumb for Joe.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So back to the beach. Bert has slimed his way in and is sitting on the couch with Irene as she opens up about Danny, and he tries to show empathy with her as he talks about his own supposed loss.
He does. She says she imagines Danny coming through the door and He says he felt the same when his wife died, and he blames himself in a way for her death, which Irene also says about Danny.
He is about to pounce, but she realises what is happening and says no, although he persists and almost succeeds. But she tells him that is wrong. I mean, he's one step away from being a rapist, I think.
Well, he's certainly forcing the issue.
If she was drunk and sort of passing out, he's the type who would take advantage.
She's emotionally compromised.
Yeah.
Anyway, she says this is wrong, but he tells her it's okay to feel good, to smile, laugh, love and be loved, and tries again to kiss her, but she says that she's never done this before, which obviously suggests she's made the decision to do something.
Oh. He keeps trying, and eventually she succumbs and they start kissing. Well, outside, we see Sam come through a gate and interrupt him by knocking on the door. This snaps Irene out of it, and she answers only to be shocked by the news that he has for her.
David.
Could I come in?
Bert saw my lights on and he came over. We've been talking.
About your dead wife?
Well, it came up. We've both had tragic losses.
Only hers was real.
What do you mean?
Bert never lost a wife because he's never been married. It's all a lie.
What?
It's not what you think, Irene. I try to identify with the women that I interview, to feel what they feel so that I can write from the heart.
There have been others?
Well, it's not criminal to try and understand female emotions.
Emotional rape is a crime.
This isn't rape. It's research.
Well, I will not be researched.
Irene, now look, Rabbi.
Oh, David. I'm so ashamed.
There's nothing to be ashamed of.
I just wanted someone to talk to, and God, I feel like such a fool.
That's all right.
My brother and my wife. I should have known.
Joke.
I don't want to hear it.
I'm not sure that emotional rape is a crime.
It's not a crime. I mean, I'm no attorney. I don't know American law. However, I've never heard of any. I've watched a lot of TV shows and movies.
I've never even seen anyone charged with emotional
Not
rape.
even a suggestion of emotional rape being a thing. So I think Sam's making this up here. Also, he tells Irene that she has nothing to feel guilty about. She sort of does. She was kissing and about to probably have an affair with seedy Bert. She stinks of pipe smoke.
No, that she made the decision to go ahead with Bert.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not saying it's all her fault. I'm not trying to victim blame here, but she does have something to feel guilty about.
Yeah. Anyhow, Joe has jumped to the wrong conclusion and stormed off.
He does. Also, sorry, Bert's defence that there's nothing wrong with trying to empathise. There was a touch of the time waits for Norman from Jonathan Creek about him. He was a sort of situation as well. But there's nothing illegal, there's nothing wrong with loving too many women.
People, yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So Joe has stormed off to the beach where Sam chases him and tries to explain, but he is understandably raging and thinks there has been some ongoing affair, and brings up how he's always been the smart and successful one, but he isn't having his wife.
Well, that's a bit possessive, but Sam takes a punch and Al tells him, having just shown up, to do it again.
Yeah, he deserved that, I think, Sam, for the attempted kiss earlier on.
Yeah, certainly for touching the face.
Yeah. You would never do that to some family member. You would never do it to someone who you weren't trying to have sex with. It's inappropriate touching. Face stroking is not good.
No, it's weird.
Yeah, unless it's a sort of sickly child. You don't stand... You only do that to someone who's lying down and ill. Anyone who's standing up, face touching is a no-no unless you're trying to take it further.
Is that in your book of rules?
That's my new book of... it's the new rule, yeah.
Okay. Al tells Sam to take another punch, and he does, but unfortunately Al's unable to catch him as he falls to the ground.
Yeah, he's an ineffectual hologram. Joe demands Sam get up and fight, but Irene runs between them, begging him to stop. but doesn't manage to prevent a third knockdown, which is quite good.
He's about as good as he was in that boxing episode.
Yeah.
Joe tells Irene he will never forgive her for this.
But Sam tells him that he means he will never really forgive her for Danny, and that is what it's all really about.
He challenges Joe to admit that he blames Irene for letting Danny go to Europe, and says that she could not have done anything to stop the plane crash.
Joe breaks down and shouts that his son is gone despite her keeping his room tidy and cooking his favourite food.
Irene explains that when she sits in Danny's room, she can imagine he's at college or on vacation, and Joe can sympathise with her or engage with that because he keeps driving past the park where Danny played Little League Baseball and sometimes thinks he can see him in left field waving.
That could be dangerous as well. Driving by parks and waving at young boys, you're going to get yourself in trouble at some point, Joe.
Well, the two of them...
Because then what will happen is a cop will see it, or someone will call the cops and they'll pull over and say, you were waving at little boys over there. Yeah, I thought it was my son, officer. Okay, we'll just check that. Your son is dead.
Yeah.
You don't have a son.
Also, he's 19.
19, yes.
Anyway, the two of them begin to open up and they can clearly begin to reconcile at this point.
Yeah, she cries that he loves him and she holds him and tells him that she knows, and she has the same feelings, which obviously brings them back together again. And Irene assures Joe that she has always loved him as they embrace.
Over at the other side of the beach, Al explains to Sam that Bert's book now doesn't get published and he has a life sentence with a shrink. Joe and Irene actually write a book of their own that helps parents across the country deal with the loss of a child. But Sam does not leap.
Also worth noting that apparently lots of libel suits are brought against Scummy Bert as well.
Always good.
Yeah. Yeah, why doesn't he leap?
Yeah, we don't know. But we jump ahead to a cemetery.
Where Sam and Joe are with Karen. They're found around Danny's grave reading prayers over the new headstone. And then Sam advises his brother to go over to Karen, his daughter.
Yes, because she's standing there by herself looking quite sad, and Joe's not sure whether he can do it, but he does, and he offers a hug, which leads to Karen being overjoyed.
And they are joined by Irene. Group hug, family hug, and at this, Sam leaps.
Yes, into a nifty pair of pyjamas.
Yeah, a nifty pair of pyjamas upside down, being shot at by a kid with a toy gun, and being instructed by an older man to remember. Will we leave that until next week?
Well, I think we need to, yes, that's the exact note I've got. Let's leave this one for next week.
We're going to have an awful lot to discuss, I think.
Or nothing at all.
Yeah.
Depending on how we approach it.
When I saw this, I gave it my own, oh boy.
Yeah. Okay. I thought this was a decent episode. Addressed a difficult subject. Did it fairly well.
Yes. As I said at the start, I thought there were emotions at play that were understandable. And I think the reactions and the behaviours of Joe and of Irene and of Karen, it felt genuine.
I'm not sure that keeping the death of Danny as a twist was the best thing.
I'm not sure if I would call it a twist. It wasn't just, they're just holding it back. I think that you could sense it. It was building up and you could sense it. I don't think it was meant to be a twist. You go, oh, they've got a dead... I mean, I think it was fairly obvious that something like this was...
You didn't just think it was a marriage that had run its course?
No, I mean, I think when you're building up with the guitarist...
the guitarist when it first comes up, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think there's different ways of telling a story. You don't have to reveal all at the outset.
And Sam wouldn't know. Well, I'm surprised that Al didn't know.
Yeah. I think when you're telling this story from our point of view and from Sam's point of view, you have to get the picture straight. There's no point overloading you with information.
That's true.
So, yeah.
I did really enjoy Bert. I thought he was good. A bit like you enjoyed in the, is it the Gracie episode? Gloria episode. You enjoyed the sleazy office guy. Yeah, it was a fun caricature to watch, and he got his comeuppance, which is always good. He did. I think Bert deserved a bit in the knackers as well, mind you. Yeah, or shoved off a cliff or something. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we get into some trivia? Nope, not from me. Okay, this originally aired on the 15th of November 1989, directed by Randy Roberts. That's a good name. This was his only Quantum Leap episode, although he did also direct episodes of shows like Miami Vice, LA Law, Chicago Hope, But he had most success actually as an editor, earning an Emmy nomination for his work on Chicago Hope and working on shows and movies like Jaws 3D and Star Trek The Next Generation.
There you go.
He died in 2014 when he was 69. Tammy Adair, or Adair, wrote the episode. This was her only Quantum Leap episode. She also wrote for shows like The Wonder Years, Party of Five and Dawson's Creek, before she created the show Strong Medicine, which ran for 130 episodes between 2000 and 2006. I think Whoopi Goldberg was involved with that one.
I've never heard of it.
No, me neither. She's now 60 and she teaches at Johns Hopkins Krieger School of Arts and Sciences in Washington, D.C. James Sartorius played Joe. This was his only Quantum Leap, but he also appeared in shows like T.J. Hooker, The X-Files, ER, and you'll know him from his 5 Murder, She Wrote.
Okay.
He's also a successful theatre actor and he's now 77 years old. Irene was played by Terry Hanauer. This was her only Quantum Leap appearance, but she's been on shows like Cheers, Murder, She Wrote, ER, and 6 Feet Under. Her most recent work has actually been as a director and in the theatre, and she's also a successful photographer. She's now 58 years old. Russ Tamblyn, well-known face to most people, played Bert Glasserman. His only Quantum Leap role, known worldwide for his Oscar-nominated performance in Peyton Place and his lead role in West Side Story. He's been in a number of TV shows, including a memorable run in Twin Peaks and the revival of Twin Peaks, and also in Babylon 5. He's been in the recent Netflix series The Haunting of Hill House, and he's the father of Emmy Award-winning actress Amber Tamblyn. And he remains active now, aged 87.
Amber Tamblyn, that's a silly name.
Well, lots of M's and B's.
Okay, well, sorry. I was telling my son bad jokes last night. Will I tell you one?
On you go.
He didn't even understand. I had to explain who this person was in the first place. So it's not funny at all, but I like it.
Okay, carry on.
Why has Edward Woodward got 4 D's in his name?
I don't know. Why does Edward Woodward have 4 D's in his name?
Because Ewa Woowa sounds stupid.
That's good.
Carry on. Amber Tamblyn.
Jill Jacobson played Shirley, the one who had the affair with Bert. This was her only Quantum Leap, but she's also been in Star Trek The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Falcon Crest, and 1 episode of Sledgehammer. You must remember her. She was Sally Vincent in Model Dearest.
Right, okay.
She's now 68 years old, still performing. Hannah, who was one of the other women, played by Twink Kaplan.
That's another interesting name.
This was her only Quantum Leap episode, but she appeared in the first 2 Look Who's Talking movies, as well as Clueless and the subsequent TV show of that name. And she's also been in things like Frasier, LA Law, CSI, remains active. She's now 74. And the third woman, the older woman who saw Sam talking to Al was Magda Harut, playing Miriam Davids. Her only Quantum Leap, but she's also appeared on shows like Cagney and Lacey, Golden Girls, 6 Feet Under, and Seinfeld. And she died in 2021 when she was 95. Trivia. There was references to them eating hot dogs, which might seem like an error, given that hot dogs generally aren't kosher, but apparently kosher hot dogs have been around since the 50s.
Yeah, from a business point of view, if you've got a large community in the area that might want that, then you would provide it. I mean, you probably wouldn't get it in Scotland so much, but...
Yeah. We talked about Bill Walton, the basketball player. We talked about Bert and his dancing history, obviously West Side Story. We got a bit of trivia about the Torah portion for the 2nd of February that year. Parting of the Red Sea, Moses, usual one of those big famous stories, everyone knows about that. Israelites fleeing Egypt. In terms of things that we learned, third wife was Jewish.
Yes. 4th wife.
Third wife.
Was it third? I'm sure it was 4th.
I've already had the 4th one for something else.
Right, okay. Her name was Ruthie. Yeah.
And she taught him some of the customs.
Yep.
And he enjoys some of the food and the dancing, but not the circumcision. Next week we have an episode called Jimmy, where we and Sam may well need to tread delicately. We will see you in 1964.
Until then,
cheerio.
Bye bye.